So, hello and welcome to this post COP26 discussion. My name's Stephanie, and I'm the responsible procurement specialist at IHG Hotel and Resorts. And I supported the ICRS with the COP26 Learning Zone.
My name is Kalyani, and you can refer me Cal all through while this discussion today. It's great to be here on ICRS. I did work as a mentor before with ICRS for some time, and so it's great to be back again. I'm currently doing a sustainability and ESG consultant advisory role with a renewable energy focused investment management company called Renewity. And I help fund managers and asset managers, helping them in their building up an investment policy or ESG policy. And I'm also doing a sustainability consulting on the side note, and currently working on some fintech projects at the moment. Thank you.
That sounds great and a wealth of experience. So, in and amongst that, you recently attended COP26. So that was last month now. So it'd be great to understand, from your perspective, how was COP and, what was your reason for attending?
Attending COP is my second time this time actually. I was part of their volunteering team in 2018 in the Katowice in Poland. I was finishing MBA at that time, so went as a volunteer to experience meeting and greeting all those celebrity speakers and guests, and it was an amazing experience. And this time I went as an attendee actually. And I think COP is a lifetime experience, and attending COP was very exciting and unforgettable. And I think it's a great place to meet diplomats, scientists, lobbyists, activists, NGOs, artists, media, politicians, business people. And this time it was also a variety of a crowd, entrepreneurs, then you have investors, corporates coming up and talking about their net zero journey and how they are trying to pledge, and they're trying to commit. I also met several country leaders and students this time, and I studied in Glasgow University, so I lived in Glasgow when I first came to UK, so it was amazing to go back to Glasgow again this time and revisit all my university days memories. It was worth it. And second part of your question, why did I attend? Purely because I'm doing a lot of consulting work right now in ESG and sustainability. And idea was also to meet a fellow professionals from other countries, sectors globally, to understand more about ESG nuances, issues. And I think, we have so many events on various topics. We have a World Climate Foundation, you had a Bloomberg event, S&P event. So I think it's good to get more exposure and ideas attending these events. So I think that's the reason I've attended, and also side events to meet people all over the world. And it was an amazing, especially I also met John Kerry in the Bloomberg Live event. It was amazing to learn from his insights. And then also there was the biggest private equity investor event where there are 26 startups who showcased modern climate technologies and clean technologies. So it was just a buzz all over the Glasgow, the clean tech, climate risk and sustainability, net zero. So I think it was good to capture all this intelligence. So one of the reasons also me attending the COP event. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I think it was just an achievement to get everyone together in one room, and it was good timing that it could happen. And as you say, that collaboration piece with a range of kind of stakeholders globally as well, sharing their insights. So coming away from that, like we're a month on now, COP26 again happening next year. We saw some big commitments and announcements. How confident are you that we can kind of decarbonize fast enough?
Well, I've got a 50-50 opinion here. We can decarbonize quickly, yes, with those industries which emit less pollution. I mean, for example, if you have a companies like IT, the companies which are not in high impact, but which are in a low impact or no impact, well, they have a very well placed plans, how to decarbonize, and they can reach the goals by 2050. But if you go to high impact companies like oil and gas, energy, you're also looking at agricultural, food processing companies. I think that could be a bit of a tough, because albeit some companies in some sectors can achieve, but mind you, China, India, and sub-Saharan Africa should be the prime focus of all the climate change strategies, because these are the emerging economies where a lot of supply chain is focused right now. A lot of back-end operations are happening right now, and especially meeting these goals involves multiple work streams, as you agree, Stephanie. For example, phasing out coal, phasing in renewables, switching out the old infrastructure, switching to electric cars, ending deforestation, and of course restoring ecosystems. And again, who needs this most? Well, developing world. They needs the investment now and fast. And the developed world needs to transfer the funds. Currently, each developing and other underdeveloped country are set to setting up their own agendas, to reducing emissions. And according to the COP agreement, each country must set its own emissions reduction targets, known as nationally determined contributions. So currently, if you sum up all this, I would say I'm reasonably confident, but developing world needs more help to achieve overall, the decarbonization plan. I mean, not just one country, but entire universe has to come together to channelize this money, to fund more projects and more clean tech startups in these countries, especially India and China, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, Russia. And so I think we could definitely achieve this, reasonably confident, because I'm also originally from India. So I know what's happening in India, the way we pledged. We want to be decarbonization by 2070. I know it's a long way to go, but it is possible if there is more funding happening into developing such technologies in India. So yeah, I'm like 50-50 on that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Great summed up as well. I think there'll be things that maybe progress a bit faster than others, but it's just keeping that pressure on, and as you say, being able to make the actions now as well.
Definitely. Totally agree with you. Yeah.
So in terms of kind of like the challenges, so what do you feel are the biggest kind of challenges for organizations specifically to get to net zero? We're seeing quite a lot of commitment. So
definitely, this was one of the main focus points in COP26 as well. Even John Kerry was talking about, he touched on this topic, not just countries, but organizations, even the SMEs, small, medium, private companies, and you have listed companies. They all make up, part of this journey, and they all make up part of the country, and then country will reduce its emissions. So it has to start from you, me, from everyone, actually. So I think if you go to the challenges, the biggest ones are the disclosures. Currently only large businesses that are legally required to report their CO2 output in line with the UK government 2050 net zero emissions target. So it is important for the small to medium organizations also get some help or on how to record emissions, because not everybody knows how to do that. And how do you reduce, unless you know that you're emitting this much of CO2, how to reduce or how to get into the map of the net zero. I mean, it's a bit of a you need like it's simultaneous thing. And it is vital for SMEs to get that knowledge and financial support they need to kickstart their own journeys to net zero, especially private companies. And I think one of the biggest challenges is private companies at the moment, lack of resources, I mean, financially, human resources, or it could be also a lot of confusion and jargon around, you have climate disclosures, and you have CO2 disclosures, and scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So you need to understand which one you want to focus on. Are you emissions focused or overall climate risk focused? I think they need some help on that. That's the biggest challenge, information constraint. And I think the transition to green economy will require a vast leaps in energy efficiency, renewable electricity generation, and the creation of cutting edge technologies. So a lot of companies are keen to do it. I mean, to get into net zero, but they don't know how to do it. They don't know whom to go for funding. But you also have a lot of private equity investors who are coming to help them. But still, there is a lot of information barriers out there, especially for the developing countries. Organizations in these countries are just lacking a lot of such information. And some companies, it is difficult to measure their business environmental impact and performance if you have a huge supply chain in multiple countries and geographical locations. You have a different systems and ways to measure. So that could be one of the challenges, especially if you're an established. And supply chain is another biggest challenge I've seen from my experience in the COP, especially to achieving the net zero, because um, deciding where to start from, within supply chain, is the first, second, third tier. You have various ways to look at it, and I think companies are also struggling. There's another challenge, especially if they have a huge supplier demand within emerging markets. That's another biggest challenge, and deciding where to start when facing so many challenges is a daunting prospect. Who should take the responsibility, and what are the most important actions to take first, and how do you measure the progress? And another challenge is, which I've come across during my COP conversations, is the cost barriers. How do you overcome them? Cost is another significant barrier to achieve the necessary carbon reductions for many businesses, Stephanie, especially cost of renewable generation technology, more energy efficient equipment, and other carbon-free assets is often prohibitive. It's not reachable for everyone. And the green finance has a very big part to play in this, and government financial incentives are likely to be required to kickstart some of the big changes that are needed. So information, disclosures, and whom to ask for the help, what exactly you want to disclose, these are all part of the challenges for organizations to transition to the net zero journey. Yeah, from my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you've summarized quite a lot of different challenges for a range of organizations there. There's just the SMEs and just that awareness and understanding, because it's very unlikely they'll have a sustainability professional in their organization. And then, yeah, the larger kind of businesses as well, and disclosing, and the kind of challenges around scope 3 and the extension with the supply chain as well. So I think there's a lot.
Probably ICRS can play a major role here, targeting SME sector, educating them. I've seen that a lot of them are information constrained within SMEs, because you have so many variety of frameworks right now. TCFD, then you have SBTI coming up, then GRA, SASB. So people are also experiencing fatigue. Which one to disclose? Which one is the best to disclose for my sector or my operations? And not everybody can go to Big Four or the big time consultants. They don't have that resources, so they all need some sort of education, and everyone's lacking on that, especially from emerging economies. There is a severe backwardness. They don't know how to start, even where do you start, until you get into that stage where you think, we know what we are doing, how to record. I think there could be some movement in the net zero, towards the net zero change.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of making the start and that first step, and just prioritization is the biggest.
Definitely, yeah.
So I guess in terms of your experience at COP, what would you say were your kind of biggest takeaways? Maybe kind of share 3 or so. I'm sure you've got a lot.
I got like 30, but I'll try to keep it to 3. The goals of COP26 are crystal clear. To secure global net zero by mid-century, by 2050, obviously. So obviously, one of the main key takeaways, at least from all those conferences I've attended and the workshops I've been to, is to keep the 1.5 degrees centigrade alive. Obviously, we all reached an agreement. We're still going to keep it to 1.5, not less than that at least. And countries need ambitious plans to limit global temperatures to no more than 1.5 degrees. So that was one of the key takeaways. And you see that a lot of people did mention in their posts and, in the COP blogs and all that stuff, so which we all know. The second key takeaway for me would be deliver that money that promised to tackle the climate crisis. Richer countries must mobilize at least 100 billion in climate finance every year until 2025 to help low-income countries. Like, as I said, I met people from West Africa, which are very underdeveloped, and some countries haven't even had vaccination yet. The Philippines has just started. So for them, survival is more important than looking into climate change. And the net zero is just, they're like, we need to survive. We need to have our bread and butter, let alone with the climate change. So the thing is that you need to start funding them, on their main day-to-day projects, which they want to go towards the climate change, or to achieve that net zero target. So I think that money which has been promised should be delivered. Otherwise, it's hard to reach that goal. The third key takeaway is Well, as we all know, we all need to stop using fossil fuels once for all. Collectively, we need to commit to consigning that fossil fuels to history. And it's not yet happening. People are getting there, they're pledging, yeah, we'll try to reduce, we will try to get there, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I think there is a collective commitment which needed. So that is one of my final key takeaways from the COP. So yeah, thanks. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for that summary. It was really insightful, and I think the lens as well that you had around kind of emerging economies and the need to take action there as well.
Yeah.
And how can money be kind of invested in the right way and allocated properly. Thank you so much for your time today, Cal, and catching up. And yes, thank you for taking part in the ICRS COP26.
My pleasure, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.